Starting the next series around, Trish Worsham, my go-to escrow officer for security title, she's been my go-to lady, like actual escrow officer, not an escrow rep, the actual officer herself. She's amazing, and so she's going to be doing the escrow class starting next time. So she's out of town today, so that's why she couldn't make it. So you're stuck with me. Sorry. All right, ready to get started on the escrow process? So, there's two different ways to kind of go about it, and I know when Trish comes in, she's going to really help you better with the nitty-gritties, like the ins and outs of, well, you, the agent, are doing this. This is what I'm doing behind the scenes, and she will come in handy. What they do behind the scenes is amazing. They are coordinating so many things, right? As agents, our escrow process is pretty straightforward. We're doing different things in each one, but it's overall the same process, the same path you guide people through every single time. What they do behind the scenes protects us, helps us, and how proactive they are in what they do will actually hugely guarantee either an on-time happy closing or a delayed not happy closing. So having a great escrow officer right off the bat is huge. So one of the big takeaways from today, if you don't have a great escrow officer that you've been using, that's been referred to you, we have some, but find a good one. Yeah, I think, yep. So, for example, there's one title company that's located in the Biltmore area. Not a fan of. I've had numerous closings that were delayed there. I've had people waiting for hours in their waiting room. They've taken days to send me commission packets. And that's just, if you have a closing like on a Friday, I expect it on Monday. You know, if you close Friday, there's no reason not to send it out Monday. If you send a courier, great. But if you're calling Wednesday for a commission form, that's not good. You know, and the agents, I love to think every agent makes 20 sales a year, and we can wait 3 days for the closing. It's not a big deal. Most agents got freaking check yesterday. You know, like, come on, we need that. And having that person that knows you, that knows, hey, we closed this morning, you don't even need to say it's already courier's on the way to the office. You know, that's the relationship you want to cultivate with the escrow officer. Okay, so that's, Trish was referred to me by somebody years ago. I don't even know how, but it was, I met Trish and Kevin Gramp actually the same time. Yeah, Dad introduced me to Kevin Gramp, so I don't know if it was how we met Trish too. Interesting. So,
unless it was through, not Laura, who was the other gal?
I think it might have been Laura.
Or,
she was the rep for security title at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, could be. But now it's been years, and she's actually bought. She used us for vacation, for her rental management and stuff like that too. So it's just such a relationship business.
So what if like the listing agents say the property's already in preliminary report? Does that matter to you sometimes?
That they have a preliminary title report?
Yeah, on the listing on the MLS. Does that matter sometimes?
Why are they asking? Just to give it to you, the information, or are they trying to convince you to use their title company?
I don't know. This is...
Because that's going to be the first question.
Okay.
What do you think? Title. Should the buyer, seller, who should pick?
Usually the buyer the buyer has the final say so.
Why?
Because they're the ones that are financing and going to buy the house.
Okay. What do you guys think?
On the contract, I guess, when you fill it out,
Are you talking about who picks the title company?
Who should pick the title company?
The buyer.
The buyer?
I chose my title company for the buyer.
Good.
I did too.
Yeah, absolutely. The sellers are going to try to get you to use their person a lot.
So
So don't let them.
I've seen that a lot. Like,
Yeah.
use
Preferred
Chicago
races.
title or whatever. So,
Yeah.
Yep.
so and so, maybe they're in Chicago your way.
There can be a number of reasons. Some of them valid, some of them not at all. Overall, 99% of them aren't valid. It's just a preference. If the seller is selling this home to buy another home, that is the one caveat, because they are going to do a dual or simultaneous escrow, which makes them they really need both to go through the same side. Okay, it makes the process a lot better, guarantees that will happen. Nothing's worse than having a homeless person for a weekend or two, you know, that's bad. So that is the only time. It started with bank-owned homes and short sales. You know, beforehand it was a very traditional market and people chose, but once a short sale happened, you did have to open escrow because you were working hand in hand with an escrow officer from the moment you got that file, because you had to get all the financials to the lender. So that way they knew how much was owed, what they would net from that sale, or not net in this case, how much they were actually going to lose. So you were actually working with a title company legitimately months before that may or may not have closed. So you really needed to work with the title company. Bank-owned homes, they had 1,000 listings and just wanted to go through one company to keep their life simple. And they made you do it. Now, since 2011 or so, when we really kind of phased out of all the bank-owned homes, it's just stuck. It has. A flipper, doesn't matter. They want to use their company because they might have a relationship, they might get a discount. But no, you don't have to, it means nothing. There's no reason that you would need to.
I would say the only time that maybe I try to maybe push the use of a particular escrow is somebody that I'm very comfortable with, or somebody that I have a relationship, and so I know that the transaction is going to go well. And it was something too that our speaker last week kind of alluded to, is that if you do have, you know, a great relationship, the object is to make this a smooth transaction so that when close of escrow, it comes when you're anticipating it. And so if I have an opportunity to prove a win-win on both sides, I'm going to try and push it, you know, to some degree, because I can't tell you how many times with the buyers, whoever they use, it's like, they've been a real pain. And it's like, had they just gone with mine? But,
And that's how hard you push, because as a listing agent, you still have that escrow officer you know and you trust and you want to use. And so a good agent will push back, but they should yield to the buyer. They really, really should.
My first two resale. First one's open door, I guess they coming back. Second one, I guess
We'll
was the
talk about
probation.
Yeah, I wonder how you deal with it.
Oh, probate?
Yeah.
So
Someone
it was a
passed
death?
away,
Yeah.
so I guess that's why.
Okay, so yeah, you found the other caveats to it. Open door, they are their own little thing, and did you read all their little addendums and stuff
Yeah,
with it? It's ridiculous, yeah.
and if I had not used their escrow officer, it was going to cost my buyer more money.
They were gonna pay two
So it was
escrows.
almost like we were kind of forced to use theirs. It did turn out to be a somewhat smooth transaction, which was nice, but more times than not.
Which company were they using?
Open Door?
Yeah.
Fidelity.
It was
it
their
Fidelity?
own, they have their own escrow people.
Yeah.
And so my
Was it
particular
Fidelity.
transaction.
It was
The
Fidelity?
10P, the lake.
Okay. Yeah.
But I also
Fidelity,
had,
because if they're using one of the bigger ones, like Fidelity actually is one of the,
Yeah.
well, they're part of the
this
big,
one
was it the
wasn't,
trio?
it was somebody, it was from Open
Security,
Door.
Fidelity, and
Chicago.
uh,
Is there a title?
they're all the same.
First American,
Oh.
no, not First American, American type, no.
No, they're all
They're
actually,
big
they're owned by the
ones,
same
yeah.
company. It's, yeah, Security, Fidelity, and, forget the one.
Lawyer.
I don't know, I'll look that
But,
up.
but
yeah.
the other thing too is it makes, if you've got, you know, working with a title company and the escrow people know what they're talking about, because I had the same thing with a probate, that actually we had the wrong death certificate. But the escrow people weren't asking the right questions, and we actually ended up going to somebody. I went with Karen at Lawyers. I said, I gotta have somebody who knows what they're doing. And so she was able to give us direction, because not all of the escrow people
Yeah.
know their stuff.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. So if you want to look at the little handout I got, I went online and I kind of cheated. I went to 2 different companies to get their opinion as to like what escrow is and stuff. So you'll see the first one here, I believe this is from Ave Ste, Home Buyer's Guide. And so right up top, you'll see Arizona's escrow process similar, blah, 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 blah. The big thing is the second bullet point right there. The buyer's funds are held by a neutral third party. Okay? That's the weird caveat to this, is because we're talking about a neutral third party that we're trying to make as least neutral as possible. Okay? And that is the truth of the matter. When push comes to shove, you want to know you have a company that A, knows what they're doing, B, that can handle things in the way that hopefully when everything settles, it's going to settle on the side of your client. Okay? And a good escrow officer will help you do that. Okay? I hate to say that they're not neutral, because they are. They're fulfilling the contract to the letter. But how that letter is interpreted can be many different ways. Okay? And I have a hard time giving specifics without thinking it might be wrong, but having that great relationship has benefited our agents and historically greatly. Okay, so that neutral third party is neutral, but make sure you know who you're dealing with. We've had security title our relationship with them for a very long time, and I can tell you there have been a couple questionable circumstances where, and one, it's like given half a dozen, it dropped on our side. There were a couple times though when when people were doing some shady stuff, and my buyers could have been in some, not necessarily some deep duty, let's just say that the listing agent was being pretty shady, and our escrow officer kind of helped us out and found out some stuff behind the scenes and called us up and let us know, hey, you need to be aware of this.
Yeah, and especially with our Canadian friends and stuff, we were so grateful that this person was right on top of it with us.
Yeah.
Stuff, so.
Different example, yeah, perfect. So it is very, very good. Okay, so the escrow company then disperses all funds and the listing agent delivers keys, blah, 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 blah. So their whole role is to interpret and just fulfill that contract. Now, many of them just look at the dates and the money and don't do anything. And that's the problem, that they don't actually think about stuff. Oh, it needs to be ready this date, so I'm just going to have it ready on this date. It's that simple. Yeah. That's not the person you want handling your stuff. You don't want them just to be a file. You want them to communicate on a regular basis. You want them to keep you updated. You know, so let's go ahead and go through that actual process to make sure that you guys know what you as agents should be looking out for, but then number two, kind of what escrow. See, escrow, are you guys looking at it more of the company or the process?
Process.
That's exactly, okay.
Process too.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Okay, so when you open up when you get your offer accepted, okay, the first thing you're going to run into is how quickly you're supposed to get your earnest money to title.
Isn't it
3
within
days.
24 hours?
No, the minute you
It's what you put on the
accept it.
contract, that put 48 hours on the contract.
It's so funny because the contract literally says,
upon acceptance.
yes,
Within
Oh,
it
you
basically
know, it doesn't matter
says,
what you write.
in a reasonable time. Where did it go? Earnest money,
Isn't it at
title.
the top?
Section 2.
Section 2.
Finance.
Yeah, earnest money, there we go.
No,
Sales.
it's actually section
It's
1.
enough.
Yeah, sorry, I was just looking at it. There we go. 26. Buyer shall deliver to escrow company a cashier's check, wire funds are there immediately available, etc. Okay? So, immediately.
Okay. It doesn't matter what you write.
Well, that's why you put in the time to kind of determine, because immediately, it could be, back in the day, I grabbed this check from my client, and that's what they did. They actually took the earnest money from their client, and then they might have gone back to their office, and then their broker deposited the check, or they wait, and then it's whenever I'm in the neighborhood. It's immediately, and that's the thing. That can be interpreted a lot. So, 3 days, 1 day, 2 days, there's not necessarily a wrong answer. So, I typically put 48 hours. That's what I put. But isn't that interesting? Immediately. Upon acceptance, earnest money, deposit, trust account, with letter, blah, blah, blah.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
On the addenda, sometimes I see like some of the notes, they include the MCAA in the output. Do we put it on line 38, the MCA?
Yeah, you should. Yeah, it's added to, exactly.
Okay.
Yep,
So
and like
just
a
say
pull
order,
addendum.
MCA, just put.
Yeah,
market conditions addendum, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the first part, okay? So usually within 48 hours. Now, is there anything about you having to handle money, wiring money, cashier's check, anything about that when it comes to the earnest deposit? Any general rules or anything that you should know?
Isn't it a general thing that we have nothing to do with it?
Can't
Okay,
commingle
you
that.
don't
As a
Yeah.
broker, that is the best answer ever.
Okay.
Never handle money. As an agent, you don't need to. You don't need to touch anything. Don't
It's like-
do it.
No, have your escrow send a courier over to pick it up, and it's like,
Or
absolutely,
have them drop it off, either or. A great escrow company will come pick up the money every time,
yeah.
okay?
I picked up both first.
You're an awesome person for doing that, but I'm sure you didn't like it, and it was a little stressful handling the money and just being responsible for it, etc.
Well, they don't speak English, so
Okay,
that's why.
that helps too. Yeah, so whatever you need to do, but they will.
I
Yeah.
know my manager told me, like, don't pick up the
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, they'll come. They'll come, or they can drop it off if possible. They're one of my first clients paid cash for a house, and literally he was in town that week, and so he left me a check for $115,000, and just gave it to me. He's like, "Here you go,"
There you go, man.
and it's like, "Oh man, yeah." Like that little corner had my little fingerprint sweat mark on it, because it's just.
Not still anything on it.
So today, you just don't need to, so don't worry about it if possible. If you can, if you want to, that's wonderful. There's nothing, just be careful, but yeah. Okay, so they'll come and pick up the money, and as far as us agents go, once you get your offer accepted, what day is that? And we're talking more of like timelines. So let's say right now at, what time is it?
Right now, it is what, 7?
7 o'clock, okay? So let's say right now, 7 p.m., we got our offer accepted. What does that mean as far as timelines go?
Easy.
Perfect. Okay? So is that weekdays?
Yep.
Business days, calendar days, like
Business
what is that?
days. Normally, it's a Monday through Friday type thing.
Not when it comes to the inspection period.
Oh, inspection,
Okay.
you have 10 days.
10
yes,
days,
from-
starting 0.
Mhm.
And so as agents, simultaneously,
Yeah.
you kind of have 3 different things going on, okay? So we got our offer accepted. Number 1, we're going to open escrow, which means we're going to put forth the earnest money. Okay, now, a lot of people don't think about this, but the earnest money is also what? It's thinking of a word that starts with C. Yeah, good faith, that's another thing too. It's collateral. It's good faith, exactly. Right? It's what the buyer's putting forth for this house. What's the seller putting forth?
Their house.
Technically
No,
their house,
they're taking,
yes.
when escrow opens, it's like at that moment, they're taking their house off of the market. And so that means they're,
Yep,
yes,
Exactly.
accepting the fact that my house looks like it's sold.
yep, right? And so they're taking it off the market, trusting that your buyer is going to perform, okay? So they're putting, that money is used for this, okay? Now, not to throw too much at you up front, but VA, this has been the big question. No money down, no closing costs. They don't need an earnest deposit.
Yes, they do.
Good answer. Why?
Because I have to I want my seller to know that he's serious about getting this money. And the cool thing is that my VA person is gonna get that money back.
There
But
you
this just shows again, the seriousness of, what do you call it, their good faith about wanting to buy this house.
If all goes well, they'll get their money back. All right, and if they do have that 000, wonderful, they will 100% get it back. But everybody needs good faith, collateral, whatever, for a deal. It's part of the contract. You do not have a contract unless both parties are putting something forward for this deal. Okay? So technically speaking, if they don't put an earnest money down, you don't have a contract, technically. It's one of those weird things. So even if it's $50, they can put their poodle down. They need to put something as collateral for this house. Okay? Nobody said it had to be actual money, actually. You can put a lot of stuff as collateral, actually. So, all right. That's a big one. Don't ever let anybody not give you an earnest money. As a seller, try to get the highest earnest money possible. As a buyer's agent, what is our goal?
The least amount.
Yeah.
But didn't you tell us a few weeks ago that the standing rule is like 10%?
1%.
I mean,
1%,
not
yeah.
10%.
Yeah, that would be a lot. Yeah, 1% if you could, okay? So, in just round, 225, 2,500, 2,000, either, that type of thing. But, yeah.
So is it the listing agent responsibility to open escrow, like, once they get the earnest money, or the buyer?
The buyer's agent, basically, what you should do as soon as you get an executed contract, because the listing agent, if they're awesome, they'll copy it to everybody and immediately start the process. Very few will. So usually as the buyer's agent, that's your cue. So you just got the executed contract back, I would let my client know, congratulations, here's your copy of the contract. And then immediately send another email to the lender, letting them know, hey, your client now has an executed contract, get the ball rolling. And then another one to escrow, saying, this is my client, here's all of our information, please contact them tomorrow to arrange for earnest money. Okay? Very
So escrow arranges, I don't need to tell my client to go down there, they're gonna ask for their earnest money?
They can, yeah, that's the way. As an agent, we are looked to as the expert, okay? Now, the longer you're in the business, the more you're gonna find out that you don't wanna be the expert in all of these fields. You know the right people, but you don't want them calling you.
Send them off to the right people.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right? This is our escrow officer. You have any questions as far as the escrow process?
Like the balance sheet and stuff?
Exactly.
Talk to them.
Exactly.
Okay.
Get them in contact with the
Takes you-
officer.
yeah.
And if they wanna coordinate to go down there, they can. But if they want somebody to pick them up, they can. So it just immediately starts off that relationship and hopefully gets you out of the middle of it.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. That's it. Yep. Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, we have a great team of people. That's exactly, hopefully they're using your lender, your escrow officer, and between everybody, that's our team,
You're the
Yeah,
connector, right?
Okay.
I'll make the connection, there you
exactly. I'm not the expert, but I do know the expert, yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you got your offer accepted, you've just sent it out to everybody so they all know what we're doing. The next day, escrow, they're gonna coordinate for the earnest money to get picked up, okay? Now, what's the next thing we wanna do?
Inspection?
Correct, perfect, okay? Now, what is the general rule as far as timelines and how to handle inspections? Let me actually start off with this one, okay? On average, how long does it take for the inspection to happen once you schedule it?
Usually
Day or two.
2
days.
days.
Exactly, okay? So, what's the benefit of trying to get it taken care of ASAP,
Because you have that.
It's very good, because you have more cushion time.
okay?
You're not waiting till the last minute.
Maybe need extra inspection?
There you go, too.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is like the first inspection. What if you find out asbestos? What if you found out AC issues, roof? It gives you time to bring out another expert just in case. Okay? So if it ever possible, try to get it done within the first 5 days. That way you have the second 5 days just in case. If everything's good, you can wrap it up early, and that helps you get everything done early. But it's always great. It's always crappy when you're on the 8th day, you finally had your inspection, then you need to get an extension. It's not ideal, right? And as far as us agents, what is like our stress period? Like once we're done with the inspections, what does that mean?
Means you have that Benzer.
Sensor.
It means we're pretty much, if we're done with the inspections,
Oh.
we're in the
Yeah.
home stretch at that point,
Uh-huh.
right?
Because then, depending on what the bins are, then you have the ability to say, let's go for the appraisal.
Yep.
And then there's always that possibility that your COE can be earlier.
Exactly, right? So as far as the stress part of the agent, once we know we have the bins are taken care of, we can relax a little bit and just kind of pawn it off on the lender and escrow. So it's always good just to get done with it in general for our stress level, just to move on, right? So 5 days, that would be great. Now, as far as inspectors go, do you guys have a couple you referred, how do you have anybody you work with? Like how do you guys handle your clients and inspectors?
I found a good inspector and I just stick with them.
Okay, and your clients have trusted you, like they're like,
Yeah.
okay so far?
Yeah, like my client right now, I said, I use this company, I'm gonna schedule for them to come out, like I'm gonna schedule it for tomorrow after I send everything off. And she's like, that's fine. She was fine with that. Because
Perfect.
they don't know where to start. She has no
Exactly.
idea who to call.
Most people don't, so that's, and very few people know a home inspector.
Yeah.
But you know,
Yeah.
it's a bummer because with my home up at Black Canyon, they actually called somebody from Prescott. But just because they're from Yavapai County, they really aren't that familiar with Black Canyon City. And so it's interesting looking at his inspection report and it's like, man, I wish Steve had gone up there, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like,
So sometimes I see, like, the listed agent says the pool's empty. How would you handle that, I guess?
we just
That
had
really depends on the loan.
Yeah.
If it's an FHA or a VA, the empty pool will potentially be an issue. Conventional, usually they're not going to have issues. What's appraisal? Typically, am I right on saying that?
The pool?
Yeah.
Yes.
FHA and VA would have an issue, but sometimes.
Not anymore.
Okay.
It used to be it would be a major issue because it was a safety concern, right? But now the FHA changed their rules. They want you to just do a cost to cure. So like we estimate $5,000 to get the pool back and running. You just
Okay.
ding the appraisal subject to completion, blah blah blah. So
Okay.
So it don't matter now?
Yeah.
I mean, I would definitely note it, take a picture of it, and you know the lender may crush it, but as
Yeah.
far as I go, I mean, it's just like here, I would recommend
Yeah.
repairing it.
Yeah, my last VA, they dunked it pretty good. But what's ironic is that when they came out for the FHA inspection, appraisal, whatever, it just rained. Well, actually, it was in the midst of raining. Actually, funny enough, and there was standing water in the bottom. So they made us have somebody come out, sump pump it in the middle of the rain to show empty. We had to take pictures of it. Luckily, Dad took pictures of it. And literally within 10 minutes, it had water in the bottom again because it was raining. But they needed that for us to close. It was the dumbest thing ever. So just,
but an act of God took care of it.
yeah. So in general, you're going to find FHA and VA, they're just a little more ridiculous things behind it. Whereas like conventional, it could be, we're going to fix up this home. They don't care. Like it's.
But it makes you wonder, why is it empty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what FHA goes through more. I don't.
You know, once it's if the temperature is over 80 degrees and it's empty, the plaster's shot, it'll die. It's more.
Yeah, that's why.
ruined.
So, but how would FHA, do they know it's fixed? Do they send someone back out there?
And that's the key. It's prior. You'll see prior to funding conditions, different things like that for whatever. During the first appraisal inspection, they'll just acknowledge whatever they will, and then they'll come back to verify I got taken care of.
Charge you again, yeah.
Yep.
Trust the buyer again. Buyer. Trust the buyer.
They don't care who necessarily fixed it, just as long as it's fixed before they give you the money.
I've had to go back out, but it's been for like the
Yeah.
power wasn't on, and we have to note there's no
Yeah.
utilities on it. And in FHA, they want to see that everything's on, the lights are on. There was no meter, so they charged the borrower. Send us back out to take a picture of the meter. I was like,
Yeah.
lights are on.
And I didn't know that a lot of lenders were actually working that figure into it for
That's
up
true,
front.
yeah.
They anticipate having to go back out at this point. So last week that was something I learned too. What was it that
150.
$150 of their good faith estimate
Yeah.
is actually that. So
For
hopefully everything
reinspection.
works and it doesn't. You get it back. But yeah, interesting. So yeah. So any of your stuff. Well, there we go. That's a great segue. What is normal? What are things that we can anticipate pretty much on every single inspection, every single escrow we have that are going to be wrong with a home?
Electrical,
Like,
GFI, they're
Okay.
not up to
Yeah.
code.
Yeah, backwards. Or something.
One
Yeah.
needs to be fixed.
Or that the, what do you call it, the water what do you call
Water
it?
heater?
The water heater is that little goodie is backwards, you know, whereas it's something you need
Oh, I
today,
had that.
you know.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
gas thing had to be
Earth to
fixed.
wood,
Wasn't up to
termites,
code or
Yeah.
something.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's almost
Or something
always,
with the roof.
dry rot,
Yeah,
and
always
eaves
something.
or something silly.
yeah, here in Arizona, that's the
Termites
dry rot
very
with the
common.
wood.
Yes.
You would think that builders and we would be educating our people to say, you know, make sure you're painting your anything wood like every 5 years to make sure it's still
If it gets
sealed.
wet,
Your stucco, anything west and south wall, make sure you're keeping on top of it
keep
because
it painted, yes.
it's just ridiculous, you know. But that's to be expected. So pretty much any of your west or south facing windows, if they're a standard builder window, they're going to lose their seal. They're going to have the little black thing popping out and probably, you know, the whatever you call it, the condensation perhaps building up on the inside. That's normal because builders use cheap windows that they pretty much use in every spot. It's not like they use special Arizona heat resistant windows. Now a lot of them do because, you know, what is it, the nylon clad or whatever. Yeah, you know, those are awesome. So they're getting better. But any of your homes, 2005, 6, 7, there's about a 99% chance all the south and west are shot. There's about a 99% chance there's 2 or 3 GFIs that aren't tripping. Now, what's the crappiest part about that when you're dealing with a home inspection? Right? Because as an agent, we know a GFI. What is it? It's an outlet. So if we're going to replace a GFI, what needs to happen?
Hire an electrician, which sucks, but.
Or a handyman can actually
Or
do it.
handyman.
An outlet is actually really easy to
It's just
replace.
polarized, it's simple, yeah.
It really is. A basic handyman can do it. Okay? If you're not familiar with electric, don't do it. But, you know, it's not that hard. On your report, it shows up as a fire hazard and an electrocution hazard. For an average buyer, it's like,
Oh my God.
my house is going to burn down and I could be electrocuted? What? You know, it's scary. Reports for buyers suck. You know, everything it means their house is falling apart and it needs to be done by a licensed professional, which means money, 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 money. And it's one of the hardest things we have. So, as agents, what do we do for our clients to help them? Number one, know what to expect. Because have you ever? If you haven't, it's only a matter of time. Pretend this is the inspection. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, fix it.
Yeah. Right.
And literally, they hand them the entire inspection with like, who knows how many items, and say, fix them.
Well,
So
but
it's
some of
nope.
the issue
Yeah, exactly.
has to, you know, when they come back into the seller and say, we'd like all of these fixed. And when you start looking at it, you know, it does seem a little overwhelming. But then again, like you said, when you come back and say, all right, now regarding these, you know, if this is what you can do and it will take care of it, and it's only this amount, you know, as far as this, And so this is where I think we have that education, sit down, talk with our clients, so that it doesn't seem overwhelming and that it is very manageable and this is what we can come back with.
Yep. What is the what does the actual contract say? And I'm going to try to pull it up here again. When it comes to a repair person.
Well, it depends. Do you
What-
mean
what
like
kind of-
what do you call it, certified or appropriate, not
They
appropriate?
don't
Close.
have to be licensed.
What's the
Yeah,
word, qualified?
It's close. A competent
Competent,
professional.
yeah.
Competent.
A competent professional, right? Just they have to know what they're doing, and that's it. So if it's a big job, obviously a licensed electrician or whatever it might be needs to contractor. But there's a lot of great competent people out there, and as long as they're willing to warrant their work, that's all that matters. Okay, so if your Uncle Bob can do it, wonderful. But is he willing to warrant his work? And is he willing to just give you an invoice and warrant that work? If he's competent, they can do it, and if it's okay with the other side. So the biggest part when it comes to inspections and asking for it is there's no right answer. You have to treat every situation. If there were 4 offers on the house, are the sellers going to be too inclined to do many repairs? Probably not, because they have 4 offers. They're in control. If you can get few repairs done in that circumstance, you're probably winning. On the other hand, if it was listed for 6 months, you're paying top dollar for this house,
Yeah.
I would expect them to fix just about everything. You know, treat every situation accordingly, you know. And that kind of comes back to comps and knowing what to expect. When we ran the comps, you saw that you had basically your low, medium, and then high, right? In comps. So let's say this was 200, this was 225, and then somebody paid 250, okay, for the neighborhood, okay? So let's say your clients were buying a home, right, in this ballpark. What would the condition of that home most likely warrant?
Not as good as.
Some updates
Yeah.
needed.
Not going to be perfect,
Yeah.
but your clients are getting the deal accordingly, right? On the flip side, if they're this person, I would expect a freaking move-in ready home, you know? So this is kind of like a general guideline, you know? You can't pay, if you can get a $200,000 house and have it move-in ready, good for you. That shows how you as an agent just won for your clients, great job. You know, but this is the general rule. If they're paying $200,000 right now, they can't expect it to, you know, it's one of those. So, right, okay. So, right now, how have you handled your bizzers, for example? Like, give an example of like the house and like some of the repairs that you guys did ask for or get. Like, for example, my last one, we got, it was pretty much, and this was weird actually, so this isn't a great example. My buyers actually asked for less than I thought they would. They only asked for 2 things. And I was like, really? Well, I'm gonna go ahead and up it for you and ask for more just because. So I went ahead and I added like an AC service to it because I think that's a great thing. You know, just making sure that the AC unit is up and running. There's nothing seriously wrong with the house, so let's just make sure the AC has all the Freon and it's working perfect, so that way, you know, at the end of February or March, that they'll be, you know, it's gonna be good. So added that, and then there was one other smaller repair too, so I just threw that on there.
I had some stucco repairs. I sold one, and I sold the first of all. It was a ranch house. It was like on an acre horse property. And the lady had smelled like dog pee really bad in this one room, like, you know, urine. So I said that needs to be fixed. Because anyway, so I made them bleach or whatever. I said get rid of the smell. It was bad.
Nice.
And then it was an addition too. And the addition had like some cracks in the stucco, so I had them fix the stucco and paint the addition. So that's about it really.
As far as comps, do you think that was a win for your client?
I was trying to help her out, but I think she overpaid, and yeah, she loved it. She wanted the house. She didn't care, and I think you're overpaying by like 20 grand, and I even told the selling agent I think she's overpaying by 20 grand. She goes, let's see if it appraises. Okay, so she was cool. But anyway, she put a full price offer, and it appraised, and I didn't like the appraisal anyway. I read it, I go, this sucks, but whatever. And this was shit that, you know. But she went to go refi like 3 months later, and it wouldn't come in. 20 grand.
Wow.
Like for real. Yeah, she goes, you were right. And I go, I told you. So.
See, but you did good. You told her.
I tried. She goes, I know. She goes,
Yeah.
you're a great agent. You helped me out. You tried. Something like that. Whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. So as far as the repairs, like, did you think that as far as the condition at that point in time, it was pretty good?
The house was
You got
clean.
what they did?
It was pretty clean. It just was a little bit smaller. It was a really hard one to comp out because all these horse properties, they're like 3,000 square foot houses. This house was like 1,800 feet.
It was site built and everything?
Yeah, it was hard to comp out. She wanted it. She was like, I have 5 dogs, and you know, that's what I want.
When you're dealing with like the pet enzymes and stuff, that gets a little
Stuff, yeah.
fun. Like that. What did they actually come in with the enzymes?
I don't know what they
do
did,
it?
but yeah, I told the other agent, hey, we needed this fixed. It's pretty bad. It's potent when you walk in.
Yeah.
And you know, the buyer didn't care. She goes, I have 5 dogs, but I'm like, hey, you want that fixed? It
See, if
stinks.
only all the buyers were.
So, she was really easy to deal with. I mean,
My
she saw
clients
and wanted
too.
it.
Yeah. You know, but on the flip side, you get other ones that ask for the world, and you're trying to get them to be reasonable. That there is no perfect home. You know, even a brand new home sometimes has more wrong with it than a caring owner has. You know, we've had. Just an example, new homes, and even do an inspection. This is where, as agents, we help with new homes too, and be there for that inspection. And if you want to have fun, come with your own blue tape. They will love it. Exactly. And Okay, had, for example, vents for microwaves, not even there. Had, what was it, several outlets not working, several light switches not necessarily working. Steve pointed this out, and as agents, I'm not sure if we can figure this out, this would be great. You would earn your money every which way from Sunday. He went up on the day of, because in roofs or attics, they acknowledge a certain amount of settling. It was already at the mark where it was supposed to be when it settled, and this was the day they were supposed to be their walkthrough. So he saw that, and they ended up going in, I forget, 3 or 4 more inches they had to blow in there, so that way when it settled at the right amount.
Wow.
It was incredible, yeah. So having people and your eyes and your guidance and expertise of your people help hugely. Okay, so during the inspection, make sure you have your good inspector. If they show up in a car, fire them. If they don't have a ladder, fire them. There's a lot of bad inspectors out there. Okay, so now any questions as far as that first part of the inspection period? Okay. So on your Benzers, what have you asked for? Like how many things, or kind of how would you qualify your method of Benzers so far?
I would just pick the most important things. Like we had one of the houses that I sold, I had to get APS involved because on the meter the electric thing snapped, like it cracked. I guess I wasn't up to code, and I wouldn't have known, like who would know something like that, because you can't even see it because it's under that electrical box.
Yeah.
So it was just cracked under there. But the problem with that one is we couldn't get APS out like till after everything closed.
Yeah.
But they closed anyway because we had it scheduled, and
It's a third-party APS.
there's nothing I could do about it. Yeah. But then like water heater issues, like with the gas
The
thing
valves.
not being up to code, and what else? I've had termites a couple of times.
Yeah.
I've had to have like action termite come
Have
out.
your clients freaked out about the termites?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so, mine didn't,
Okay.
because it's so common in Arizona. And it's like, we'll treat it, it's warranty for a year,
Yep.
so.
It's so funny when you get the people from either like Washington or back east, and they're used to the termites that could actually eat a house, and they have
But you
far
mentioned an
different
interesting
cry.
thing, and so when you think about the Southwest, as far as like the roof or the what do you call it, fascia or whatever, those have been, some of the stuff that for the most part has to be fixed or repaired or whatever.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer. I've been able to push and get 20 things taken care of. On the flip side, there's been certain circumstances that we've strategically asked for nothing. But I found, historically speaking, the safest way is if you ask for too much, sellers are gonna what? They're gonna get defensive. And when you're dealing with a defensive person, are they gonna potentially do less than they would have otherwise?
Yeah.
Because they're already here, right? So if you ask for too much up front, it's actually going to negatively impact you in the long run, more often than not. So what I found is if you spotlight the top 4 or 5 items and focus on those, usually you'll get it, usually.
Now, what happens, because, I just got the Benzer back, and so there's some, I think, legitimate concerns, but they're wanting a financial credit, so they came up with $800. And so I'm thinking, how do you put a dollar amount on the repairs, because, considering what the sellers already are having to fork out, it's kind of like, I guess that's the power of negotiation.
I had to send vendors out there and get estimates to do a credit.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, this is what it would cost, And then
Yeah.
if you're trying to save them money, you can, take a few $100 off of it or something, but.
Yeah, and that's the other benefit of having the inspections done early in case you do need to get some bids taken care of and stuff like that. Exactly. Depending on the work, what kind of work are you talking or bidding are you needing?
Well, it looks like, obviously there's a little bit of electrical, but there's some stuff like in the attic that needs to be taken care of. They have an issue with one of the windows.
You're talking about like
Yeah.
wiring up in the attic, or
No,
installation, or
it
like
has to do
actual like
with the
support?
vent.
Oh, vents.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where you can actually see where the vent just stops. It doesn't go all the way up.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
like, oh, that could be a safety issue, so
And that's
I totally
again
get
the
that.
new builds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how often
But,
they don't connect some of the ductwork.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And then your AC doesn't work right? It's not blowing in the room or something?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
it
Uh,
could be
no,
cooling
this-
off the attic instead of the bedroom. Exactly.
That could be, I have no idea.
That's
I know
something
that the
else.
master bedroom is extremely warm compared to the rest of the house.
It could be the ductwork for
And
the
so
master.
I'm thinking, wow, but you know, the thing with the window, it's kinda like, well, okay. But, you know, we'll look
Yeah.
at some of the other stuff, I'm just not sure it's $800 worth.
Yeah. Well,
But, cause
if
they're
it's
already asking my seller to do a lot of stuff anyway, so.
yeah. And as agents, find a good AC, reputable AC partner.
It's hard to do.
Yeah, they're gonna, yeah. So I would send Dawn out there to take a look at it, if it were me, to take a look at the ductwork. Yeah, I have another good company that actually did the ductwork at McKnight too, and they came in at, it was under $1,000 and they redid the ductwork for me. It's awesome,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but,
I'm an AC guy to not use.
yeah, if you wanna know the people to avoid, we got a great
I got a
list.
list of guys. I'm actually gonna make a list of people to never use.
I think we should, because that includes
That's
the,
gonna be great.
the title
Like, this is
people,
my-
inspection people,
Yeah,
yes.
I have, well, I had a really
Yeah.
bad
Yeah.
lender experience.
Yes,
It was
yes.
so bad. Oh,
Oh, I'm there.
Yeah, it's like the rosy list of pros and you'll have like
Angie's
opposite.
list and like, yeah, the opposite of that.
Yeah. Yeah, so, you know, obviously as a buyer's agent, you're gonna push for everything you can and just do it strategically. You know, when you throw a book, typically people recoil. But if you're reasonable, you know, you more often than not have a better. And when you're dealing with certain clients, some of them wanna always push because that's what they're used. Well, I'm gonna come here and they're gonna come here and then we're gonna here and then we're here and we're gonna end here. And they just want to play that game. Even though it may not. So try your best to where, with your best judgment, what's going to get them the best end result. You know, if you get the right feel for a client, like they're desperate, like the sellers are desperate, then heck yeah, man, push. You know, get what you can. As the opposite, if you're a seller, you know, you're trying to get the opposite. It's kind of interesting how we have to battle both sides. So, okay, so. We've made it through. Last part about the 10 days, and we spent a lot of time here because the 10 days is for us agents. This is the biggest part, you know. So when it comes to termites, how many of you guys have you ever seen a serious termite inspection or a serious termite issue?
Yeah.
What was the worst one you guys have seen?
I did
Like was
one-
there actual structural damage?
I've never seen anything like it before.
Yeah?
And this thing
I
was like
seen-
hanging from the ceiling everywhere. I was like, oh crap.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Baseballs.
Yeah.
The entire
I've seen
floor.
that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was nasty.
I haven't seen
Yeah.
that yet,
I have pictures of one. That's pretty cool.
I've only seen and it was structural damage, but it was literally only to one actual beam in a garage, and they sat here and they fed on this little section of this garage for I don't even know years. I mean it was huge, and this little like they had eaten literally through the drywall portion, and it was just one small part of a beam. And to this date, that was the extent. Like you see termites all over the place. But actual structural damage,
Like hollow wood crushed, yeah, it's
yeah,
disintegrated.
yeah, like very rarely do you find it here in the valley. So when you're dealing with people who move, that's going to be one of the biggest challenges is people, oh my god, there's termites. It's like, well, here in Arizona, they're more like ants. You know, we service them and then they're going to, you know, you get a warranty and then you move on.
But they're gonna find
You
another
know,
place, yeah.
It typically takes years of a major infestation before any actual damage. Believe it or not, they love paper. They're the same thing. Wood is a harder thing to eat. Paper's easy, and paper's everywhere. So they love it. I mean, it's covered everywhere. It's just paper. And so you'll see them behind your pictures and stuff, and it's just one of those things. So, the termite inspection, obviously you'll always get that. If anybody fights that today, that's just dumb and you're gonna hurt yourself. So hopefully you won't have many issues having a termite fix, you know, that type of thing. There's a lot of people around, who did you use?
Action termite.
Action, Budget Brothers, we use them a lot. They're probably the two most popular companies here in town, so, yeah.
They're like $400, so I'm
Yeah.
like, that's reasonable.
Yeah, $500 or less on the average, so
Is
it's,
it on spot or the whole house?
they take, when you get a service, they warrant the whole house.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, unless it's a big house with lots of rooms, then you may have to pay a little bit extra, but no. So, yeah, so when it comes to inspections, then, are any questions, any thoughts, any ideas? Yeah.
So, let's say on the MLS says, seller will credit buyer like, let's say $3,000 for new carpet. Do we put it on a contract or how should we word it?
That's the fun part, yeah. Okay, so when it comes to asking for the repairs,
I mean,
don't,
they put it on MLS already. They're willing to, what's it, 3,000 allowance, something like that.
to have the easiest way to go about it without causing any red flags, because lenders don't like problems with houses.
Right.
They just don't. So if there's anything gonna be said, try to avoid credit for whatever. Just say the purchase price will now be this, or seller to provide this credit at the close of escrow, but it's not tied to any condition
For a
on
reason.
the house.
So what about pricing wise? You don't, let's say buyer willing to offer the full price, you still put full price and say something, let's say 3,000
Like,
will be credited to buyer at closing?
Yep.
Or should we
Yeah.
just add that in seller concession, I guess?
That,
you can word it several different ways. Essentially,
Okay.
it's all gonna be the same thing.
Okay.
So you could say the purchase price will now be this.
Okay.
The seller will credit the buyer $3,000 at the close of escrow. You could word it a couple different ways. The credit at the close of escrow keeps the purchase price the same. So as an agent, it behooves you to have that little extra in your commission check. Whereas if you're actually changing the purchase price down to X amount, then it actually is. But the key is there has to be the closing cost to warrant whatever the credits will be. But yeah, if you're ever worried about an appraisal, take down the purchase price. It's half a dozen once.
but at that point, does that become just an arrangement then between buyer and seller?
What do you mean?
Is that what you're saying? Like if, you know, that seller is willing to credit buyers such amount, you know, is that then just an arrangement between the buyer and the seller?
Well, it's just so much better than asking for little repairs in a lot of cases. Some people, as a buyer's agent, okay, what are the concerns about the sellers making repairs?
You don't know.
Well, you
if
won't-
it's
you have to
worth it.
warrant it, yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna find the
Yeah,
cheapest
cheapest
person possible. That's, you know, they don't care about the quality. They just want to, you know. And so I'm always leery about actually having them make the repairs. I'd rather get a credit almost every time.
Okay.
Yeah, and allow them to do it. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
I mean, if I was a seller,
I had an owner replace the carpet, and it was a rental property, you know, and they're selling it, and they put the cheapest carpet in there.
Yeah.
So if you did a credit for the carpet, I think it's actually better, because the person buying the house
They
can
that
pick the
choice.
carpet they want, instead of have
exactly,
the cheapest carpet in there.
exactly. Yeah, this fan doesn't work. Okay, I'm gonna buy a $39 fan at Walmart.
And it
you know.
works.
I'm like, okay, take this fan down.
Yeah. So, okay, so we're through our inspection period, okay? So simultaneously, behind the scenes, we're gonna take a step back and look at it from title now, okay? Title, at this point in time, had the earnest money and should have sent you the receipt, okay? The earnest money receipt is very important. If you're a listing agent, that's when you know the buyers are serious, they've actually put their foot forward. Here's the crappy part. As a listing agent, if you ever have somebody that wants to cancel before they've even put their earnest money in, just move on. Don't even try to push. Don't fight. Don't get mad. It happens. You'll have people accept a contract and then never put their earnest money down. It's not worth the fight. It sucks. Unless you have a really pissed off buyer or seller that wants to sue for performance, there's nothing you can do. So It doesn't happen often, but once in a while, unfortunately, I've had it more where I've actually represented the buyers, and it's like, well, we're supposed to open escrow. It's like, and then they just get cold feet. It's just, yeah. So, you know, that happens. So, earnest money receipt shows that escrow has been opened. That should be delivered within 2 or 3 days, ideally. Okay, if it takes more than 2 or 3 days, I would really be harping on the other party to get their act in order and try to get going. Okay, so as soon as she gets the earnest money, Jiminy Christmas.
Someone sending you pictures?
I don't know. Wow. Simultaneously, they're going to get the title report. The preliminary title report is one of your best things. Okay, so from what you know, what is the preliminary title report?
You mean the commitment?
Yeah, the title commitment. Sorry.
It's, I think that the escrow company is going to do their due diligence throughout this entire process.
Is what they're gonna insure the house?
Yep.
What they promised to do?
Title insurance. That's one of the
Claims.
biggest things that title is. When you're actually in Arizona, that's what confuses a lot of people, because in California, for example, you're dealing with 2 different companies.
Yeah.
In like New York, you have a lawyer who then gets title insurance, right? The lawyers handle it. Your title company is actually title insurance, right? And your title commitment is pretty much you know at that point that this is a good house that you're able to buy, that there's no clouds on title, that you're not going to have any weird things. And let's say worst case scenario, here's the benefit of title insurance and why it's better to have the policy, okay? It's an extra $200 or $300. It's not cheap, okay? And that's where I don't know how, I need to update how much it is for the actual house, for the actual insurance for the bumped up plan. I think it's $300? $700?
I don't know.
It's between $300 and $700. I need to double
Children's
check.
settlement.
But
I just got a
basically,
balance sheet today.
pretty much, no matter what, let's say you close on this house, right? Let's say you're finally retiring, you've just bought your home that you're going to spend the rest of your life in. And then next thing you know, you found out that it was a probate, and you have 4 kids fighting over because this is my house. They sold it when they weren't supposed to, and all this other crap. Or let's say that house was never theirs. They just took possession of it 40 years ago through the 7 years of just staying on the property or something, you know.
Some weird easement or something that's not part of that.
Exactly.
I've actually done those appraisals. They're kind of fun.
Easements, again, rights of ways, accesses, all kinds of stuff, right? Let's say you bought a property and then found out that. That's exactly why you have title insurance. You, the owner, doesn't matter. You get your home, you get to move on, they're going to deal with the crap, they're going to pay stuff out, you just get to live in your home and it doesn't affect you. They could fight and bicker, but you're just going to live there. It has nothing to do with you at that point in time. And you get to keep your home free and clear, no questions, and that's the benefit. It's true peace of mind for the rest of eternity, pretty much, as far as what your clients are concerned. Okay? Now, here's the thing. What's the likelihood of there being an issue? Let's say you live in Surprise Farms, you're buying lot 249, you know?
Something.
I'm sure it's rare.
Yeah, okay. On the flip side, you're buying an acreage in some weird place that has weird boundary lines, Black Canyon City. You know, I'm sure if anybody wanted to, almost every person in Black Canyon City can have a dispute for lot boundaries.
Very true.
I'm pretty sure nobody knows where the legitimate lot lines are for anybody up there at this point.
Yeah.
You
Just
know?
needs and downs.
So what it means, like, if the house is in a incorporated, what's that mean, I
An
guess?
actual unincorporated part of town,
Yeah.
like you have several of those around. Basically,
Does that matter, I guess?
not really. I mean, it has benefits for some tax reasons. Those are the weird ones. Okay. So,
Police.
for example, Black Canyon City. It's Black. I always refer to it just because since you guys live there, we have so much experience.
What's that?
It's an unincorporated part of town.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's that?
Black Canyon City is the
Yavapai County, but we're not incorporated.
it's the halfway part between Phoenix and Prescott, basically.
Yeah.
That's wrong.
Yeah.
242,
When you go up,
244.
yeah, when you go up Anthem, you see that Kitchling's Badass Barbecue, or it used to be, but
Rock Springs.
yeah, Rock
you know,
Springs.
Yavapai,
That's Black Canyon
yeah.
City. They are their own entity. You guys, and this is where they're all a little bit different comparatively, but you guys don't have any city taxes or anything, right? Like you guys are getting your trash through, who is it? You guys,
Something disposal,
Dragon?
like
easy disposal,
Like Phoenix,
I'm trying to think.
is it
Waste
Phoenix or
management.
New
No,
River
no,
has
no.
tried to annex them several times, but they're,
Peoria,
yeah, but they are their own little entity where they don't have they have their own separate utilities, taxes, their own little shebang. The only people they're really accountable to are your county and your state. It's just a really unique entity. There's a few of those around, like there's a part inside Litchfield that's unincorporated. There's a few little spots around, but for the most part, it's just a unique little spot.
So it doesn't matter, but what if like people with kids, they go to school, I guess that doesn't matter, I
I used to live
guess?
in
Most of them have schools worked out. Like they used to ship theirs all the way up to Goldwater back in the day, didn't you?
But
But now they have
it's
Anthem.
Mayor and
Cool,
Anthem, and
that's
then
cool.
we have our own, elementary
about that.
school, yeah.
Yeah.
So, no.
Yeah.
So I guess from buyer side, really don't matter.
It's the same due diligence you would be helping them out with anyway, but instead of just having like, oh, here's your school district, it's like, oh, we ship our kids to here. Instead of paying like the city of Glendale for our water, they get it from here.
Okay.
On their tax bills every year, they're actually saving a lot of money. Because they don't have to pay for the city taxes or whatever. They have, you guys have cap fees here and there that you guys are doing and stuff like
But the
that.
other thing too that's interesting with the rural areas is like, the wastewater or like the septic, because it's just, it's unique, and so.
If you're on one side of the freeway, you had one water company. If you're on this side of the freeway, you had another water company, and one of them was way more expensive than the other,
But
correct?
now they're both about the same.
Yeah.
Police are usually like county services versus you're the sheriff instead of like the city,
Yeah,
My dad's in
whereas
county,
we're
I would-
Daisy,
Yeah, so he's in Chandler, but it's the Maricopa County Sheriff. The Chandler Police doesn't come to his house. He's like right in the middle of Chandler. Like,
Isn't that silly?
Well, and
Yeah.
don't they have, isn't there a
See,
part
it's
over there
unique
where the
things
fire
like that.
department
Same thing.
is like,
Rural Metro only.
they're
yeah.
not there, so
Yeah.
it's like, sorry if you're on fire,
Yeah.
get
Because
your
he calls
hose.
the police and it's like an hour before they get there because they have to drive all the way to
And
Chandler.
that's if you haven't, I'm sure, forgive me because I talk about stuff all the time, but aaronline.com, if you're not in the habit of it, get your clients to this one, okay? So just have them continue as guests. You could send them the link to this, but where
The
is it?
buyer's
Buyer's
one.
advisory right there, under managed risk. Buyer's advisory, here's the Spanish version, here's the English version. They just click on the English if they want, and then right here, they can literally take them to everything. And I think part of it is Community Facilities District, yeah. And so you got a bunch of different things right here, and you'll see that there's links to a lot of
Yeah,
different places and stuff. And some of them are exactly pertaining to those. Okay, and every blue link is just wonderful. I mean,
yeah,
if they want
septic non, yes.
yeah, water well issues, pests, soil problems, yeah. And it's funny how many of these are just like bit.ly links. So death and felonies on properties. So if you want more information on those, here you go.
Oh,
So yeah. Okay, so it's one of the best things you could do as far as your buyers, yeah, for them to start. Okay, so once you get the title report from your escrow officer, that's your other little tidbit that this home's good to go. You're not going to have any foreseeable issues, and up front you could always ask your title person for a preliminary title report and stuff like that. But overall, you want your earnest money, your preliminary title, oh man, my brain just totally went shot. What's the number, what's the title report? It's the actual section that we're supposed to refer to, and that's what I wanted to hit on.
Schedule A?
Thank you, Schedule C.
Schedule
That's it. So in your title reports, that's all the Schedule C and stuff like that. That's what you want to look at. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can pull one up. Yeah. it just me or is it hot in here?
No, I
One.
just got hot all of a sudden.
Okay. Commitment, there we go. Okay, so here's your commitment for title insurance, okay? And typically it's a big packet. Notice this one's 23 pages, okay? So you go down, commitment to issue policy, commitment conditions, da-da-da, limitations, liability, da-da-da, da-da-da, perform policy, everything. Here's your Schedule A, okay? So proposed policy talks about the house, everything like that. Exhibit A, then you got your Schedule B, now you get down to your Schedule C. Nope, exceptions. Oop,
Fire fraud, all these.
American title insurance, residential, da-da-da, exclusions, attachment 1, formally continued, wow. Okay, so this must be the actual, this is weird, this isn't it. Okay. Huh, okay, so this is
Is that maybe the C part?
Schedule A, Schedule B. Yeah, this one's a little bit differently worded. But overall, okay, here, let's just quickly go through it. Okay, so the Land Title Association, the commitment, it's the basics of the policy, right? And it basically goes through how you're buying it, what the purchase is, what the liabilities are. So the proposed policy amount, notice, is $215, and your Alta policy, 2000 homeowners policy, insurance, $269. So you've got your home value, then you have your mortgage, right? And so that's what this is basically breaking down, just making sure that the total amount is covered, okay? Then you got your description for it. Your Schedule B, this talks about everything that has to happen as far as just the community, the HOA, just the property, just all the details, who's doing it, et cetera, okay? Who's buying the home, who's responsible, all that stuff. Then you come into, again, just more of the owners. These are all like the random details about the property and the requirements. The Schedule C portion is the actual part, okay, of it. So the requirements, here's the exceptions. So this one's, yeah, this is so weird because this is where it would have normally been. And it talks about a bunch of different stuff, and I would talk to your title rep to go through the details, but that next portion is the actual part where you would actually find out if it's clean or not. Okay? So the first couple parts are just the details, but the C, that's the meat portion that's literally the only part we're concerned about. Okay? Let me see here, title, policy, Schedule C. Okay. Alright. So see, here you go. See, the Schedule C must be removed prior to or at closing. Okay? Oh, that's Texas. But that's the Schedule C part. If there's a cloud, that's what you know needs to be cleared up. Okay? So the Schedule C is what's important. With all goes well, it's not going to have anything and you won't need anything. And that's the way the majority of title policies are. But you get them for that 1 in a 2,000 chance that there might be a cloud, you're going to be covered. And realistically, the more expensive and bigger, you know, any commercial property, obviously, you don't want to take any chances. $1 million home, it's just, no, I don't want to take any chances, you know. So if you're buying a $15,000 piece of land, it might be up to you, you know. But, okay, so any questions on the title policy? I'm sorry this didn't work out like I wanted, but you saw what it said. The Schedule C, if there were anything, it would be there. So this may not even have a C because there might not be anything. Who knows? Like, I'm going to go back and double check that.
But this is why you just encourage them. They need to take the time to actually read the little stuff.
Guarantee 99% of agents get the email from title saying, here's your policy, and they don't look at it.
Yeah.
Okay? You can skip everything and just look for that, or just call them directly and say, hey, did you see anything on the C? You know, and that'll skip to the nitty-gritty.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, a lot of times you see record full release and reconveyance, just meaning the seller have to pay whatever mortgage they owe. Am I correct?
Say that one again?
Record full release and the conveyance of a deed of trust. Is that what it means? I guess if they still owe money on it, on the house, the seller still owe money on the house, they just pay that at closing?
Yeah, the recording fee is basically for that. Like when you have your closing, two things happen, right?
Yeah.
The mortgage or whatever it is, if there's a loan, all the proceeds transfer over to the new owner, or I mean to the sellers, right?
Yeah.
So they got paid, and then the title, like whoever is the recorded owner, gets transferred at county, basically. Okay? So what you're paying for is that transfer of the name. So one of the fees on there, and I'm not sure if that's literally.
It's line number 10, top schedule B.
Line number 10, Schedule B.
Yeah.
Was it up here?
Up there.
Exceptions.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right
Yeah,
there?
yeah. Furniture,
Yeah.
is that what it means, I guess?
Yeah, when they furnish the recordation of the full release pre-conveyance, yep, that's the show, that's when it's fully recorded that it's taking place for the new people. So in this one, you're gonna see that what is it? Joseph A. Carroll and Margaret Carroll, were the,
Trust too.
yeah, they're the ones that were
Salad.
giving it, yeah,
So they have to, I
to
guess,
Raoul and Maria.
so meaning they have to pay that to.
This isn't so much anything about the paying. This is one of the deals that I did. Okay, so literally this was a seller and a buyer. So this was the policy for these two people. So this was literally the Carrolls giving it to the Lopez's. Okay, so the Carrolls were the seller of this home, and the Lopez's were the ones buying it.
Okay.
And so they provided the insurance for the buyers, guaranteeing them. So basically this showed that part of what had to happen, the requirements, was that they had to fully record and release it 100% to the others. So part of this being a valid policy was that it had to record and be put into the Lopez's name.
But that means that the financial obligation or whatever from the Lopez had to be met in order to take care
Yeah.
of the Carrolls.
If she didn't buy the house, the policy's moot.
Yeah.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So there's a lot into it. This is where next series, Trish can answer these details with a lot more. I know the process, but with the details like within these, that's their job. They eat, breathe this daily. That's why they're all title companies are huge, So, but just know that you want the Schedule C as far as we're concerned. That's the big part. We want it to be clean.
If there's lien on it, that would be appear on the schedule C.
Any clouds, anything like that would be on the C. Exactly. Yeah, if you have some tax bill that they're holding a lien on the house or something silly, it'll show up there. Exactly.
But this is where it's kind of nice because like you said, when you look at, when escrow is open and then we go through the inspection, the Binzer that gets all taken care of and stuff. The other thing that helps is when you have your escrow with your lender and you're getting your, your lending status update, so that you know that the lending process is still moving along and is set on time, so that we have close of escrow when it's supposed to and stuff. So it helps when you have not only your lender but your escrow staying on top of that and giving you that paperwork. So it lets me know that we're still okay.
Yep. So, okay, so all that should happen within like the first week,
Yeah.
okay? So, your anything on title, that's entirely separate that has nothing to do with your inspection period, okay? Now, you get through your Binzer, okay? Now, the general rule is you want to respond. Now, if you respond on your Binzer, the buyer's inspection, on the 5th day, okay? Do you still have another 5 days on your inspection period?
If you're responding, no, because it's only then, when I send my Binzer, say like to my seller, and then they respond, then
You say you're done.
Yeah.
Yep, if you respond on your Binzer, you're done. If you give them a Binzer on the next day, you're done. That's it. Okay? So just make sure that you can reply whenever you want. But if you don't respond on that last day, what are you doing?
You waived it.
You're conceding
Yeah,
that.
you and your buyers just accepted that house as is. Okay?
I had a investor buy a house, and they're like, we don't need any inspections, we'll just, because they were just gonna go in and get the place, so
Yeah.
they didn't care.
And
I
they
was
didn't
like,
even bother to
sweet.
do any paperwork or
It's
anything?
great for the seller, yeah,
Yeah.
no, didn't have to do any work.
Contract coordinators hate that, but it's technically doable. You could literally have a contract and then have basically nothing until the closing, and then it is what it is,
Yep.
you know?
But it is a little stressful when I think that my contract was accepted on the 29th and here it's the 5th, and I only have technically 3 more days.
Yeah.
And it's like, tonight now I have to actually approach my my sellers, because we have to respond to this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I don't like it when that amount of time has already gone by.
It sucks. It's see, again, as agents, it's that 10 days. It's our stress period too, And when we're going back and forth, it's like, "Arr." So I always try to get done as soon as possible, just so we can all move on, right? But make sure under no circumstances as a buyer's agent do you ever want to miss that 10 days, okay? Now be careful, because there's a few agents around that are sneaky, okay? And they will word things to make it sound like you have your 10 days, but they'll say, must respond by the 10th day. Not on or before, by the 10th day. That means on the 10th day, you've lost. I actually got burned. This is one of the few, literally the one time I lost earnest money was over that stupid technicality. I canceled on what I thought was the final day, but she had written an addendum that says by the 10th day, and I lost $1,500 for my client. Fortunately, he didn't fire me. We moved on to the next house, and I credited him back. But that was the one time, and it's because she put an addendum in there on the little things that said by the 10th day. So watch out for little stupid things like that. Okay?
So let's say if the buyer doesn't want any inspection, should we have that something signed?
Yes. Yes. We
This
have.
is the thing, they actually have the ability to waive the
Yeah.
inspection.
We have Breakthrough has an addendum for anybody who does waive their inspections, just saying that they're going to hold us harmless due to anything that they could have found.
isn't there something on the purchase contract too, if they don't want to?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. But well, in general, it says that we can't be held responsible for any of those things in general. But we actually have right here. This is something that you guys might want to do. Like for example, our mold disclosure.
We have that one little spot.
Oh, that's your own.
Right
Okay,
there.
I was like,
Yeah.
I couldn't find one.
Yeah.
I found one. I found one, but
If you want CYA
It was
documents,
generic.
I can give you a bunch.
it was a generic thing.
Yeah, but
Same with the pool document was another one.
Yeah.
Pool fence, I didn't see that, so.
yeah, I can send them to you if you want.
I found
Yeah.
a canned one, but.
But right here, brokers, agents from any liability for any mold found. So it's just random things that just show that they're, you did your job as a buyer's agent, and it was up to them to not do it. So you just want to relieve yourself. And then in the actual contract, there's 2 different spots that specify that we aren't electricians, we're not roof people, we're just realtors. We're not landscapers, electricians, anything like that.
I
We
wasn't
know
there when
the
the house was built.
we know the process. I don't know anything about that house in particular. Yeah. Okay, so by the 10th day, you're going to respond, and then how long do they have to respond to you?
Usually they have up to 5 days.
Okay. Now, when they do, where am I going? Oh, I'm into form stuff. Jeez. Okay, so what's great about these is if you really pay attention to the contract, as a buyer's agent, this is where you get to walk them through and protect them along the way. So, as a buyer's agent, just make sure you're working on your spiel to really know that your clients can feel protected along the way. Arizona was the Wild West in the past. Therefore, we have one of the most buyer-friendly contracts today. As a listing agent, you just need to make sure that you're keeping the buyer's agent on board. And if they ever miss any of those dates, you win. Okay, so that's the benefit of that. But as a buyer's agent, you can walk so confidently if you stay organized. If you know you're not gonna miss an inspection period, okay, you know that they have 5 days to respond back and forth, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, let's say your client, I have to be careful how I do this. But 10th day, you have your Binzer expected, okay? So what's the next thing you're gonna look for? As far as a buyer's agent, you wanna make sure that things are processing properly. So we've gotten through your earnest money, you've submitted your Binzer, you've gotten your title commitment. What's probably one of the next things you wanna make sure, and this is, even if there's no HOA, there are still
Oh, yes.
CC&Rs, okay? Every community has CC&Rs. Even if it's a piece of land, there's still a document pertaining to what the use of that land should be, okay? So, that is one of your client's outs, okay? Now, one of the biggest things to focus on during the escrow process for an agent are all the things that you can get away with if your clients need to be as now, okay? So the CC&Rs is one of the best things. During the
Is it my job to give my buyer the CC&Rs?
Nope, just to make sure that they do get it some way, shape, or form. Because they'll get it from either title or from the HOA.
Okay.
Usually title will just email it at this point in time. It's usually just a packet, yeah.
Okay.
But every once in a while they'll get mailed a packet, okay? But what's the benefit of that? Because it's independent from the inspection period, has nothing to do with that.
It just keeps them aware of, they're educated.
Yep. They're supposed to send it, and I'm not sure if it's either in this first part or if it's in the HOA addendum, but they're
You
supposed
can
to.
always find something in the CC&Rs to get out of the deal.
Exactly. For good or for bad, exactly.
Yeah, park on the street,
I
I'm
was gonna
out.
put a manufactured home in here, I can't.
As far as a listing agent, I have more paranoia as a listing agent because I'm not in control of anything, and I hate it. As a buyer's agent, I feel like I have more control, you know? So, exactly. So, if they have an RV, even though it has an RV gate, most HOAs don't want to be able to see an RV from the street. Home-based businesses, parking, amounts of cars, amounts of plants. They literally, there's a lot of communities that say you have to have 23 plants in your front yard.
Yeah, yeah. Or no parking on the street and no parking in the driveway.
Or
Yeah.
no commercial cars.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's commercial.
Yep. And a lot of them aren't even actual rules that are enforced potentially. You know, that could have been 30 years ago, and they really aren't enforcing any of them. So it's up to you to kind of research what is, because I had one client that had $1 million motorhome. The HOA, the CC&R said no RVs, but the community, literally, the HOA people were saying, no, we don't enforce that. My clients canceled because they better safe than sorry, but he didn't fly, and he had $1 million motorhome. It's like, and they didn't, and it was a great neighborhood. You really wouldn't have been able to see it because it was such a big lot, but they had to cancel. So risk-free, and this was, I think this was a cash deal. We were 2 days before the close of escrow.
Oh,
It took the HOA like 10 days to get us the CC&Rs, and then they responded on like the 3rd day of having the CC&Rs, and the sellers were pissed. But my buyers rightfully deserved to cancel. It sucks, but you know. So CC&Rs independent, make sure they're getting them ideally within the first week or two. Okay, they shouldn't take them more than like 5 days or so.
So how do you cancel that? Do you submit those?
Just an addendum.
Just
You
an
just
addendum.
basically do the CC&Rs. If you've already done the Binzer, it would be an addendum. If you haven't done the Binzer yet, you can just cancel the Binzer.
They'll cancel the whole bit, no? Even after inspection and all that?
Yep.
Even after the 10 days?
Yeah.
Crazy.
People confuse the inspection period is your inspection period. CC&Rs have to do with the HOA, have completely outside the buyer's hands. Yeah.
If you got that early, would that matter? No.
How would you?
You have 5
cancel
days from whenever you get it.
Oh, okay, so if you get it early, then you better.
You got 5 days, exactly. Yeah.
You get it towards the end of the closing and say, nope,
Exactly.
not gonna happen.
If the HOA didn't send it to you for 3 weeks.
That's on them, that sucks.
Yep.
Yeah, it sucks to be going through the process, 30 days and you're like,
Uh-huh.
harness and everything.
How would you
inspections.
cancel that? Like, what would you?
The addendum.
Yeah.
So you send
Do the HOA not allowing RVs per CC&Rs? The buyers are forced to cancel. Yeah, we're canceling it. Yeah, whatever.
Back to the drawing board,
you
what a
send,
bummer.
you
What
send that to
Suck.
both escrow and listing agent, both of them.
if you're doing fiduciary to your buyer, you know, it's like,
That's,
yeah,
as a buyer's agent, as much as it might suck, there's a lot of ways to facilitate what needs to happen.
That's how you can put multiple offers out,
I,
right? You can just find something for somebody else and, sorry.
because this is on video,
Kinda
I am
crappy.
going to plead the fifth on that one.
Oh.
But when it comes to, when it comes to multiple offers, sometimes you've gotta do what you've gotta do for agents, or for clients, you know. I've had clients in town for a weekend, and it's a competitive offer, it's a competitive market, and they weren't comfortable putting all their eggs in one basket and going home. And you gotta do what you've gotta do in certain circumstances. So yeah, if you're in the unfortunate spot of getting 2 approved deals, cross that bridge. Yeah. So the CC&Rs would be the next thing that you're gonna be looking for, okay? Outside of the inspection period, could be inside, but ideally for the sake of everybody involved, it would be good to have it earlier. Yeah, okay? So now you're moving on. We have our stuff done, we've gotten our CC&Rs, we've gotten all that, yeah, it's time to go, sorry guys. So what's next? Mom has to teach, where are you at now?
I'm at 94th Street in Cactus, and I have to get up at 3, so.
Yeah, she teaches nursing students that are actually in their clinicals. Yeah,
Yeah, she does that too.
yeah. So unfortunately, she has to literally be up at 2 a.m. to get there on time. Yeah. So as of right now, she could get 6 hours? So anyway, once you get through the inspections, then you really want to make sure that the CC&Rs are there, but then what's the next thing? And this is the big one, the lender part. Yeah.
Appraisal?
Yep. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So typically most lenders, and another thing to note until last week, that technically the lender needs to get a written approval to be able to move forward. So they technically aren't supposed to order the appraisal until they've finished with the inspections and have signed off on it. Technically, I didn't
Until
know
the
that.
bins are completed.
Yeah, and they're supposed to actually have written approval to go to that next buyer.
That's good to know.
I didn't know that, yeah. So, then you do the appraisal. And typically, they'll want to wait to make sure that people are approved and are approving the house, so that way they're not wasting $500 for no reason, you know what I mean? So typically, most lenders, unless you're in a big hurry, will wait for that next bond, okay? So the appraisal typically takes a week, 2 weeks, whatever it might be, unless you're in a rural area, it could take way longer. And then you have their response, okay? Now, as far as us agents are concerned, that's the next out, if need be.
Are we supposed to receive a copy of the appraisal report?
Not necessarily.
I didn't think so, because I haven't always received it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if whoever orders it,
Yeah, it's the possession of
procure
So the seller,
whoever paid for it, technically, yeah.
well, the buyer, yeah.
Yeah. They could give it to you, but the lender, the
Oh,
appraisers,
lender. Oh, I gotcha, okay.
the lender orders it to facilitate the loan, the buyer pays for it, but they don't even get a copy unless they request it from the lender.
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes them mad.
it's weird, yeah. So, you have the appraisal. If it appraises, you're pretty much moving forward, you know, that's that. If it doesn't appraise, that's when you cross your next bridge, right? If you can make a new deal, great. If, more often than not, but sellers will accept the lower amount, more often than not.
What are
If
we
it,
gonna do?
exactly, okay? Sometimes you're gonna negotiate somewhere in the middle. If you have a very competitive market and a not cash buyer, but somebody that's putting 20% down, for example, okay? Sometimes in a competitive market, they'll actually negotiate with somewhere in the middle. Let's say it did appraise by 5,000.
That's close,
Yeah. So they may pay the difference, or they may negotiate somewhere in the middle, you know, could be. But that's one of the few spots where more often than not, it's not worth the fight for the sellers, and the buyers will get a good deal. So as a buyer's agent, this is one of your best selling points because you want your clients to feel comfortable, right? So, Mr. Seller, or Mr. Buyer, what's great about this, because you know it's a competitive market, and you were having a really hard time coming up with this list price, you know, it was more than you were ideally looking for. So here's the good news. You're gonna be protected by the appraisal. If it appraises, you know you got a good deal because it appraised. The good news is if it doesn't appraise, we'll get to renegotiate and we'll get you that good deal. So pretty much you're gonna be guaranteed that you're not gonna overpay for the property.
Can seller back out at that point if they say, I'm not?
If they don't wanna accept if the bank doesn't appraise, I mean, if the lender doesn't say, if the lender doesn't say we're gonna give you all the money,
Mhm.
the seller can say, well, you have, this is the contract.
Right.
You're gonna come up with that difference, or we're moving on.
I bought a house, I represented myself. I knew they were asking about $5,000 too high. So the first thing I told the other agent was, hey, if it doesn't appraise, is the seller gonna go through with this or are they gonna back out because I'm not wasting my time? So she talked to him, yes, he's cool with it, it appraised for $5,000 less. And so I got it for that, but the seller was then pissed because he found out I was an agent and an appraiser, and I actually knew the other agent, but it was just coincidence.
Yeah.
So he was like, you guys are working together? And I'm like, it's $5,000, dude. And I'm not the third party appraiser, right? So,
Yep.
but it was a crazy deal.
Yeah, that was in the competitive market. That was one of the biggest things because people knew that it was coming down, so they wanted to know if I accepted this that you were going to come up. And so when you had 5 or 6 offers, that was one of the biggest selling points. Is that if it didn't appraise, my clients would be willing to pay $5,000 out of pocket. If it doesn't appraise, we'll pay. I mean, I've had back in 2010, I think I had clients paying $15,000 over appraised value just in case.
Just to get it.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
2010.
Yeah.
Well, that was the house was.
These were investors competing on like $68,000 homes.
5 years.
Yeah. So, but it was one of those things. There was no guarantee on the appraisal. It was always scary on appraisals.
Seems like right now, anything that's FHA, you know, there's multiple offers on it. It seems crazy to me. That's what I hear from everybody.
Yeah. And if you want to sweeten the deal, this is where knowing your contract, because if you can raise your earnest money, right? Say they're going to put $20,000 down, we'll put $15,000 earnest money.
Yeah.
Okay. That looks great to a seller, but me as a buyer's agent, I know I'm going to protect that, and there's little to no chance my clients are going to lose it.
Right.
Right? So it's a great selling point that's risk-free. Having a shorter inspection period. I know my inspector's going to get out there in 2 days, but we're going to have a report within 4, so we can do a 7-day inspection period. That's another great selling point, right? Finally, if you know that it's going to appraise, be like, you can throw it in even though it's probably not even going to matter. You're like, hey, if it doesn't appraise, my clients will pay $2,000, you know. There's a lot of things that are kind of risk-free-ish that really make your offer stand out.
As a seller, you're going like, what's the best offer, right? I don't want the FHA, you know, I want the cash guy if he's going to come in at full price, unless he's coming in, he wants a deal because he's cash, you know. I guess you weigh it out. So.
Yeah, and if you have a guy that's putting more money, earnest money down, shorter inspection period, you know, it just looks better. Yeah, you're going to beat out all things being equal, but you're really not risking anything at all, you know. So, okay, so just to finish up, sorry guys. Okay, so you got your CC&Rs outside, good to go. You've got your appraisal, and hopefully that's going to come back. If it doesn't come back good, you're going to renegotiate, probably get the better deal. It's up to your buyers if they're ever going to pay more, and it's up to the seller if they're going to accept less. Okay, nobody has to do anything, but hopefully you guys can come to terms.
So let's say they don't agree on a price. So you, as a buyer agent, you submit an addendum to cancel. Is that how it works? Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
It's very simple to actually cancel. You just cite whatever reason it is, and then submit it to title, and then they'll create the actual letter.
Okay.
Okay. There's always a letter involved. So simultaneously, you want your buyers to handle anything that's coming out from both sides. So the escrow, they're going to send out the packet to fill out. Make sure they get that taken care of ASAP, because that's how they continue ordering everything else. Same thing with the lender. They need their immediate packet filled out, because theirs are the big ones. They can't do anything until that packet's filled out. If it takes your buyers 4 or 5 days to fill that out, if you're on a 30-day closing, they just put a little kink in the plan, okay? Keep in mind, they have to get docs out at certain periods. So 1 day here, 1 day here, 1 day here, that adds up over the escrow period, okay? So make sure anything coming out from both, try to get it back within 24 hours, okay? If it's back within 24 hours, you're probably gonna be on track for an on-time, if not early closing, okay? Most people don't understand the significance. Oh, we're 30 days out. I got a couple days. No, especially not in the lender world, okay? So behind the scenes, just make sure anything the lender's sending, they're on top of, okay? If it's a good lender, they'll copy you and you'll kind of know. Okay, so you got through the appraisal. Let's say it came back happy. At that moment, hopefully we're about, what, 2 weeks in, if all goes well? What do we do?
Start counting your chickens.
Waiting for the sign, I guess?
We basically hang out at that point in time. Make sure everything else is just going as needed. Check in with title, check in with your loan people to make sure it's good. Your lender should be sending you loan status updates every week, okay? And just make sure they're on top of it. If they need anything, ask them, okay? Because this is where you can just get ahead trying to make sure you're on track for the right closing, okay? So let's say everything goes well, okay? When should the lender get docs out? Okay, I'm just kind of skipping underwriting and all that because they go through all that, you know. So how quickly, in a perfect world, would lender get docs to title?
I'd say like, at least maybe 15 days, 10 days before closing? Or-
If possible, that would be fantastic,
Okay, so
but
that's way too.
that's a stretch,
soon.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They have 3 days to review the CD, right?
Mhm.
Before they can officially do anything. So ideally, when would they have it?
4 or 5 days.
4 or 5 days, right? If they can do 4 or 5 days in this market, they're doing pretty good, okay? A great lender can close in 2-3 weeks if they really were pushed, right? But more often than not, you're not closing in 3 weeks, right? So they're gonna get docs out there. So if it's the week of, make sure they're on top of it. If you're on a 30-day closing and everything's right, there's no reason to be rushed at that moment. That 3-day period is really ridiculous. Back in the day, we were actually sending out docs an hour before signing, and that was almost normal, right? And that was on a 30-day closing. Now we have a 30-day closing, and they're needing the docs out 3 days in advance. Okay? You have 25-day closings 3 days in advance. So just anything you can do to help the lender and that process, okay? Big thing. So outside of that, that's pretty much it. Make sure the escrow company sends you your pre-settlement statement, whatever you want to call it, okay? Make sure they do. Very rarely will they. Why do you want to review the settlement statement?
Make sure everything's in check. Make sure your commission's accurate.
You want to make sure your commission's there, absolutely, right? But a few other things, such as the warranties.
Yeah,
Make sure the
taxes
warranty's
and
been
all that
ordered,
stuff.
okay?
Make sure it's all appropriate.
Exactly, the down payment, any of the credits that you're contributing, stuff like that. You don't need to be an expert on the settlement statement. That's what the escrow officer, they should be the one to walk them through, right? But you want to make sure just the basics, the down payment, your commission, if there's a warranty, if you've given any concession, anything like that, you want to make sure those details are there, absolutely.
I got a question on the warranty. So let's say if the listing agent says there's warranty on the house, do we still, on the contract, do we check that warranty?
I would. Yeah, because without putting it on the contract, there's no saying that there is any conveyance of anything.
Okay.
So just put it on there, even if it's the same, try to put just the same company and whatnot, and then you can facilitate that at later.
Okay.
Because it also specifies, on the contract, it specifies the buyer and the seller, just basically because if the buyer's gonna be paying for it and doing all that, it really doesn't pertain to the seller. But more often than not, the seller's gonna be paying for the warranty. So that's why it's on there, because they just wanna know how much they're gonna be paying.
Okay.
So if they're transferring the warranty,
Right, they transfer.
it's just transferring, yeah, but you just make sure it's on there, so it's on there.
Do we, let's say, so do we later on call their warranty company to?
Yep, and
Okay.
so, you guys are awesome. Okay, so, before closing, these are the last like 4 or 5 things you want to do. If there's a home warranty, make sure you scheduled that and got that taken care of, okay? I have like our contract coordinator, that's part of her job, is to handle any of those things. Make sure the warranties are taken care of, okay? Sometimes an escrow officer will order it, but not always, okay? So just make sure that you are making sure somebody ordered it. You can order it, escrow can order it, even your buyer can order it technically, but, okay? Old Republic, they're one of the easiest when it comes to ordering because it's online, they have their online toolbox, it's just awesome, so it just makes it easy. Okay? Power, water, all the utilities, oh man. Make sure they're keeping them on, and make sure you're keeping them on through closing, okay? Even the day of, it's tough. Make sure things get delayed, right? So as much as your seller doesn't want to, have them keep the power, the utilities on at least a day after right? If you're closing on a Friday, keep them on through Monday, okay? Oh, it's just the worst when you get delayed and power gets shut off, and let's say you have a pool, for example, and it's the summertime, and that 3 days just made the pool die. Yeah, okay, so make sure you're telling your buyers to turn on the utilities. Nothing's worse than forgetting in your day of, and your buyer's like, hey, should I turn on power? It's like, oh, shoot, dang it, yes, turn on it right now. So make sure you're keeping those timelines. So about a week or two in advance, you can tell them to schedule it turned on as early as you want, but no less than the week before, just because, gas takes sometimes a week themselves to come out, So finally, what is the very last out/protection your client really does have?
Can't qualify?
Well, that's true. If they don't qualify for the loan, that's another out, that's another big out. There's a lot of reasons people can't get loans. So yes, but it's more of a protection that you're gonna do pretty much right before closing.
Final walkthrough?
Exactly. Your final walkthrough. Okay. Now there's a couple different ideas behind the final walkthrough, when and how you should do it. Okay. When would you do it, in your opinion?
Exchanging the
Like a
keys.
day before closing
2 days
escrow,
before.
right?
3 days before? What did you say?
I'd say a day before,
Day
because
before?
something could happen.
And then just before
I'd
you
say
exchange.
before you get the keys, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, number one, before they sign. Once they sign, it's hard, because signing, okay? They might be able to hold it without doing it, but once they sign, it's kind of screwed. So I like to do two, okay? One is with the buyers themselves, and the other is potentially with the buyers if they can, but if not, me, worst case scenario, okay? You want to do your first walkthrough 3 days beforehand. Why would you want to do it that way?
In case something needs to be corrected.
Cure periods. Exactly. Right? 3 days beforehand, you find something wrong, you hit it with a cure period. What are you doing? You're still closing on time. Okay, so that's huge. So if there's any repairs that need to be made, anything like that, that's your time especially, right? To make sure it's taken care of and you're not going to be delayed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say if you send out the cure period, they didn't fix something, a hole on the wall, whatever. You don't send a cure period to the title deed, the escrow.
If you're trying to hold up the closing, yes, absolutely.
But when they send that to the lender too, I guess?
Lender, not so much. It's mainly, it doesn't really affect the lender themselves.
Because
And be leery of sending anything pertaining to the condition of the home to the lender. Okay? Because that'll raise a red flag for potentially things needing to be fixed that you wouldn't have necessarily, that's like a can of worms you really don't want to open, kind of.
right. So we don't send to the escrow.
I would send a cure period to the escrow,
Okay.
because they're the ones that would enforce the earnest money and everything like that. And they're the,
But you tell them don't send it to the lender because these.
they wouldn't in
They
general,
won't.
yeah, unless it's actually lending doc and it pertains. Title knows what they should and shouldn't be sending to the.
Because when I was going to school, they said escrow company, they send whatever you send them to all the parties, seller, lender, I guess. That was what I was told when I was in school.
They send what needs to be sent to
Okay.
everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, but for example, like a Binzer, usually not, for example. Any of the addendums, absolutely.
Okay.
You know, that's why be careful on
They
an
know
addendum, because an addendum is part of the contract.
Okay, so
The-
they know.
Yeah, the buyer's inspection, no seller's response is part of the contract, but it's not actually the contract. It's not the purchase contract. It's part of the process. But like an addendum 1, addendum 2, addendum 3, those will always get sent to all parties.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. Okay, so final walkthrough, 3 days before, that to ensure you're going to close on time. Hopefully it'll be good, you can just do it. But then again, acts of gods do happen, or God does happen. So AC units go out, water lines break on the day of. It happens, unfortunately. So before they get to closing, if they're like 10 a.m., I'll do a final walkthrough 9 a.m. just to make sure that the house hasn't burned down, that there's not water coming out the front door, type things like that, just to be on the safe side. So it is extra. We used to just do the one walkthrough, but now the 3 days to be on the safe side, and then the one right before they sign it.
So you just go do it yourself for the last one?
Yeah, if they're available on the morning of, great, get on their way, we'll do it, make a thing of it. But oftentimes they're out of state, they're out of town, whatever, and I just do it. Well, if it's occupied, but it's the day of closing at that moment, so
Let's
hopefully
say,
they're
let's say
gone.
it's vacant,
Yeah.
let's say it's vacant.
Yeah.
The final walkthrough, you should let the listing agent know every time it's going to
Yeah. Yeah, it's a courtesy to let them know you
Okay.
might be popping by.
Okay.
Yeah, but the day of, like, yeah, that's the thing. They should be out of the house. They should be good to go. The appliances should be there if they're supposed to be the right ones. You know. Yeah, that's your final thing exactly. So that was kind of my tidbit on escrow stuff. Any questions? Any thoughts? Good.
You get some more in escrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.